So we are talking about the international north-south transport corridor. So international north-south transport corridor. So what is it? Let's discuss. So our pattern of classes will be like we have to understand that if that a particular topic is current affairs or not. So what we should do? Let's go to the newspaper. Let's go to different newspapers. So when we encounter something in a newspaper, which means that of course it is a current affair thing. That is why it is coming in the newspapers, right? So we get the current affair news. This is actually from the Economic Times. So what is the news here? The train from Russia. Trains are actually coming in and out of Russia, right? So what is the speciality? How a new route can change things in India, things for India. So some new train route is actually coming from Russia. So and it is actually an important thing. It is an extremely significant thing for India. That is the news actually. So we have to then we when we look into the different, there are a lot of newspapers who publish the exact data. So we are going to understand what that news is. We are going to have an idea of what that particular news is. I'll just use this slide. The news is that through a new route, that is the INSTC, that is the International North-South Transport Corridor, Transit Corridor, through that new particular route, a train has started reaching India from Russia, and the train is full of coal. The coal, no, the energy, the thermal energy, the India is still dependent on coal. Almost 60, almost around 60% of the entire power generation energy in India is actually from the thermal power plants. So what do you mean by thermal power plants? It is the coal energy only. So all the electricity, all the fans, all the ACs you are using, every kind of electricity, the possibility is that it is from the coal. So almost 60% is from the thermal energy. And what is thermal energy? It is coal. And now India actually started sourcing coal from Russia. And so what? So that is the news. So India, the first train through the new route is coming from Russia to India, bringing coal to India. So that is the current affairs news. And this is actually Russian coal. And this entire thing, that is the INSTC, is a very heavy, very large project. And it is actually having a network of around 7,200 kilometers. So that is the distance this train is actually covering. I hope I understood. And this is coming from the place called St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg is a place in Russia. It has a very historical value also when it comes to the World War things, and lot of Army Day parades are happening in St. Petersburg for the commemoration of the World Wars. So St. Petersburg is a very famous location in Russia. It is very historically important location also. And from St. Petersburg, it is actually coming to India. And which place in India? It is coming to the Mumbai port. It is coming directly to the Mumbai, and this is the news happening here. And it is coming through one important port actually in between. That is the Iran. In Iran, there is a port called Bandar Abbas. So that port is called Bandar Abbas, and that through that particular port, the particular shipment is actually reaching India. So after reaching that port, after that, then it is through the sea route. The train cannot go. So then it goes to the sea route only. So which means that it is not just the train. There are different types of models, different modes of transport is actually applied in the particular project. Which means that it is a multimodal. So not multimodal. So know that it is not multimodal, M-O-D-E-L, not like that, M-O-D-A-L. So what is the meaning of multimodal? It means that multiple modes are there. What are the multiple modes? The cargo may be coming through the road also, through the large lorries and trucks. It may be coming through the rail also. It may be coming to the seaways also. So through the different ways, these particular modes are applied to transport all the goods and services, goods and all the things. So that is why it is called the multimodal network. So make sure that it is not multimodal. So that is a very important thing. So when you are actually writing this particular answer, makes just imagine if you are actually writing it like this in the exam, the moment the invigilator sees, the paper correction person sees that, he'll be laughing, maybe he'll actually reduce marks. So it is a very important thing to understand. In this spellings are not that much important, but if you change one particular word, then if that particular word becomes having another set of meaning, if that entire meaning changes, if you change just one word, then yes, then there is a problem. So that has to be rectified. That has to be practiced as and when you practice the exam. So this is actually a multimodal transit route. Multimodal in the sense it has both seaways, railways, etc. Now, what is this particular thing linking? this particular route, this particular transport corridors linking different regions. What are the different regions? One is IOR. What is IOR? That is the Indian Ocean region right here. So it is Indian Ocean region is a very vast region, and India definitely is the dominant player in that region because we have that kind of coastline. We have around 7,500 kilometers of coastline, and so that is why, and plus we have that added advantage of the different two important islands also. Which are the islands? Lakshadweep is there, and then Andaman and Nicobar Islands is also there. So important strategic locations are there, and through these islands, India is having a very dominant position in the Indian Ocean region. And this particular project, INSTC, is linking different regions. Number one is Indian Ocean region, that entire Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal, those entire region is one important aspect. So I'm trying to make you understand the map also, the cartography, the map also, the location of different things. So the first one is Indian Ocean region. So it is actually linking it with some other regions, some two other regions. So what are the other regions? So the next one is the Persian Gulf. The next thing is Persian Gulf. So you have the Persian Gulf right here. So this is the Persian Gulf. So INSTC connects the Indian Ocean region, all the Persian Gulf region, and then finally it actually ends up in Europe. So this is entire Europe, right? It is going to Russia, yes, and Russia is one very very large country, and it has different time zones. India has only one time zone right now. If it is 8 a.m. here in the southernmost part of India, it is 8 a.m. in the northernmost part of India also. But Russia is so vast that it has multiple time zones. That is a very important thing. So this particular project actually connects the Indian Ocean region towards the through the Persian Gulf towards the Russia, and then entire Europe is actually planned to be connected. That northern part of Europe is actually connected. So that is the project, and in between that, it actually passes through certain regions. For example, the Caspian Sea also. So the Caspian Sea, Black Sea. When you study geography, also these different seas. These are actually lakes only right now, but earlier they were seas. But when the continents actually moved because of plate tectonics and all, eventually all the seas combined, they just shrank down. Eventually they became lakes. Maybe in around millions and millions of years later, they will eventually shrunk down to some ponds and all. Then they will finally die off. Just imagine our own Himalayas, when we think about Indian geography perspective, our own Himalayas, that place where the Himalayas is currently right now, it was a sea, it was an ocean. That is called the Tethys Sea. So that Tethys Sea was there. So in between that Tethys Sea was in between. So then two continents actually collided, two land masses actually collided together, and then in that place Himalayas originated. So what happened to the sea? That sea finally died off. So that is why we actually find the marine forces, those animals like fishes and all, only found in the sea locations. That fossils are actually found on the high mountains of Himalayas. How? They are Himalayas, right? How are marine fossils found there? Because of this particular concept. That is, there was a sea, it shrank because of the collision of the continents. So that is why we still find marine fossils there. So just like that, these kind of seas are extremely important. There is Caspian Sea, there is Black Sea. The last classes, I guess we mentioned about the Baltic Sea. And in this year's prelims exam, there was a question about the North Sea, the North Sea. So there are a lot of different seas and land masses like that, which we have to definitely study. So this is one important place, that is the Caspian Sea area. So, and just near there is a Black Sea area also. So this is going through that particular way. And we are only talking right now about the land route. That is not this particular blue line. We are talking only about this particular area. I hope. So lot of places are actually being connected. So when you study INSTC, you're automatically studying the map of Asia also. That Central Asia is coming there. The South Asia is actually coming. So you are actually studying multiple things when you study this aspect. And what are the different countries through which this passes through? We have to also understand. And so let's move to the next slide. Right. So we are again talking about the INSTC, that what was the historical evolution of INSTC? It was launched like years before only. So it was launched on 2000. So it was on September 12th. So September 12th of 2000, that was when the INSTC was launched. So just like I wrote here, you have to have an idea, or you have to have a fairly good amount of idea that when was when is the chronologically, when is that particular project launched, when was that particular incident happened. So when is the duration of the World War One or World War Two? When was that particular duration? That you have to keep in mind. That yes, that is important. But you don't have to exactly remember the date. So this is not a birthday or something like this. This is not the birthday of Vladimir Putin or our prime minister, something like that. So you don't have to remember the exact dates like that. Even though it is on September 12th, you can just understand, okay, it was somewhere around the 2000s. This particular project was inaugurated. That is the only thing required in the UPSC. You don't have to memorize by heart. Putting it so much effort to by heart a lot of things, that is not at all required in the UPSC exam. Maybe they can ask you for something like chronology. They can give you certain incidents, certain events. Then they can ask you arrange the following incidents in the maybe in the ascending order or maybe in the descending order also. That way UPSC can ask you questions, but still you don't have to remember the exact date also. You should have a fairly good amount of idea of when, what happened when. That is the only thing required when it is in the UPSC perspective. Now, this INSTC, we have to also mention that it is actually a trilateral project. It was started as a trilateral agreement. So, which are the trilateral means? Three. So, what is it is actually mentioning something about three entities. So, what are the trilateral nations? The one is definitely India is there, and the next one is Russia, and the third one is Iran. So, India, Russia, Iran. So these three countries came together, they signed an agreement, and that agreement established INSTC in 2000 year, the year 2000. So that is the it was in the actually in the Euro Asian Conference of Transport on 2000. So you don't have to memorize that also. Just understand that it was in 2000. This was launched by the three major countries, India, Iran, and Russia, to establish one transit corridor in the group. Now we'll just go through the different members also. Later on, after 2000s, after the three countries signed the agreement, India, Iran, and Russia, later it was expanded. So, what are the other countries currently right now in the particular list? So, and now the three is there. So, this is the three plus 10 more countries are there. So, what are the total number of countries? So, 13 countries are there. Again, you don't have to exactly remember 13 countries, but have an idea that yes, the three countries were Iran, India, and Russia, and then some other countries also joined. So around 10 plus countries are there right now. That is the only thing required. That is how you actually study. So which are the other few countries? For example, Kazakhstan, there is Kyrgyzstan, there is Tajikistan. So these three countries, for example, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, it comes where it is actually in the map of Central Asia. So this particular project actually aims to go to the Central Asia, to cover the Central Asian countries also. So that is a very important aspect. Important objective of the particular project of INSTC is to connect the unexplored regions of the Central Asia. And three different countries from Central Asia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, are in the members of this particular project. And the other countries like Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Republic Turkey is there, Ukraine is there, Belarus, Oman, Syria. So I'm trying. Ukraine is still in that list, right? So Ukraine is having a war right now as we speak with Russia. Belarus is actually supporting Russia in the war against Ukraine. So a lot of conflicting partners are definitely there in the member list. But this is the total list of members currently right now after the expansion from the initial three. So we are going to understand about the three. There are different corridors actually in the INSTC. So it is not just a very straight line, right? So the different regions are being connected. So they say that this is only the land route only. We are not talking about the sea route. So sea route actually comes like that. So we are not talking about the sea route like that. We are talking about the land route only right now. So when we talk about the corridors, different ways in which this corridor is actually planning out, there are three different corridors, three different separate routes in which INST is actually implemented. So which are the three different routes? That is what we are going to understand. The first one is the central route. So there is we don't have to understand the names also, just understand the concept. That is, everything is actually ending in the region that is in Mumbai. So what is in Mumbai? There is a Mumbai port is there. So that port is actually called the Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust of Mumbai. So this Mumbai port is actually one of the destinations in which this INST is actually transferred. So it is one destination, we can say. One of the end points is actually Mumbai. So that is one point. And from Mumbai, the corridor number 1, 2, 3, if we list like that, from Mumbai, one point is it is going through Iran. So it straightly goes to Iran like that. So what is happening in Iran? There is another port that is called the Bandar Abbas. So this transit is going to Iran, that is one. And then it actually goes through the places of straight to the Russia. For example, it goes like this to Russia. That is actually corridor number 1. So from Mumbai to Bandar Abbas to actually straight to Russia, that is corridor number 1. That is first corridor we can say. The another next corridor is actually the through the Azerbaijan region. So we are actually drawing it like that only. The first one is actually Azerbaijan, and the next one is we have to mention that we already mentioned about something like Central Asia, right? So where is actually Central Asia? This is the region of Central Asia. I hope it is understood. So that Central Asia has different countries like Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, etc. So INSTC also plans to explore the unexplored regions of the Central Asia because it is very rich in resources, energy, all those things. So that particular corridor is actually passing through that region. So as you can see that thing. So there are two different corridors which are being implemented, and the third corridor also has the route actually through the through the sea actually through the different sea routes, through the different rail routes also. This is getting connected to Russia. So that is one another aspect. We already mentioned about that also. So different aspects actually come together, different corridors come together to create what it is called the INSTC, that is the International North-South Transit Corridor. But what is more important than this kind of data is that you have to also have an idea about this data. But the most important things when we study about a subject is the relevance of it, is the significance of it. How does it affect India? How does India's some policy decisions affect someone else? So these are the things which actually is really affecting us. So let's look into the major part of this topic, that is the significance of India for India. The first point we are actually going to draw and study things like that. The first important thing is actually to have diversification of the trade route. So what is the first important thing? Diversification. What is the requirement of diversification? Because there are certain chalk points. So I'm just writing only the keywords here. Chalk points. So when you take a water bottle, just imagine if you're taking a water bottle, so you'll hold the water bottle like this, but just below the cup, cup of this thing, right? That top of the bottle, there is a small portion, right? The water bottle is a very width, there is a comparatively width is there, but still just before the cap of that section, it is very thin. So it is the chalk point. So what happens if you choke the neck also? You will get, you will not get the oxygen. You will find it difficult to breathe and all. So this is a chalk point. So just like that, there are different chalk points. There are different obstacles in the way when we are actually going for trade. For example, the current Israel is actually, there is a bad war going on between Israel and the Palestinian people, the Hamas and all. There is one important thing. That is entirely different topic. So it is a very large topic to be taken. So we'll be taking that soon. So one point is Israel, the issue happening in Israel region, the West Asian region. The other one is there is one other Houthis. Houthis are having their own war in the Yemen area. We'll be understanding where the Yemen is, where the Israel is actually. The map of that particular thing also has to be studied. I'll also suggest you to have an atlas that is very basic. School atlas is required. No, you don't have to go to any major big books and all. Just buy an Oxford School Atlas or anything like that. Very simple one. You'll get all the ideas from the School Atlas itself. So when you read something like this, when you hear something like this, you can turn the pages, you can find the position and all. You can mark the area. So that is very important. So different things like that. Israel is there, then Pakistan. Pakistan is one very important point because Israel, then Palestine issue, Pakistan also, right? Because if you want to transfer your goods and all from Rajasthan, maybe just imagine there is actually very much it is very least possible. Why? Because the country, the geographical reality of Pakistan is there. We cannot bypass that country because it will be there forever. Because so that is one very important thing. We have to bypass it. And then there is another country, that is the Afghanistan. What about Afghanistan? Afghanistan actually is a heavily unstable country also. So only very recently in the last few years that Taliban took over Afghanistan again. So it is actually very unstable. We cannot predict what the current administration of Taliban is planning, the Afghan administration is planning. So a lot of different uncertainties are there. So we have to diversify our trade. We have to diversify our trade routes also, we can say. So that is to bypass all the different obstacles. Diversification is one of the aim objectives of the program. So that is the significance. Number one, diversification of the trade route. The next thing is actually, as we said, we already mentioned about that, Central Asia. To connect with the Central Asia is very important because, second, okay, connect with the Central Asia is very important because I said, just like I said, it is a heavily unexplored region because all the European countries, all the Gulf countries, all are actually very much explored. But what about the Central Asian countries? All the Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, all those countries are there. These are having very extensive amount of energy resources are there. Rare earth minerals, all the things are available there, which are very valuable to the humankind. So we have to explore the Central Asia for different things, such as energy, the defense cooperation to counter terrorism. We can also mention about the cultural exchanges also, because that a lot of Indians are definitely residing in some of the Central Asian countries. So the cultural mingling is actually happening. So those cultural exchanges, everything is actually possible with the Central Asian region. So that is why we even have a program that is called Connect Central Asia. So that is important thing, Central Asian Connect. And the next thing is that to reduce the or to maybe say to increase the efficiency of the trade. What do you mean by increasing the efficiency of the trade? For example, currently, if the trade is actually taking 800 days to reach from A to B, but when the INST is actually coming, it will take 20 days less. Right. So 20 days less is a possibility. So through the current route, if you're taking that much time, if you are going through INSTC, you'll find it very easy to reach. It is very less distance also. You'll find within less than 20 days, you will reach the destination, which means that 30% of cost is less. That is 30% of efficiency is increased. So 30% less cost. That 2 points itself shows that the system, the INSTC plan is extremely efficient. And the next thing is actually about energy itself. So we already mentioned about the Central Asian region. So a lot of, and we have to, we are actually, most of the countries are heavily dependent on the Middle Eastern countries, the Gulf countries. So we, in the last, one of the last classes, we had to mention about the oil crisis, the 1973 time, there was a crisis, oil crisis. Entire globe was actually, the scarcity of oil was there. The Arab countries, the OPEC nations, they decided to cut down the supplies and production of oil. So all those countries were suffering. So they decided that okay, we cannot depend on the Gulf forever for the supply of oil, and they started producing and forming different other associations also. So just like that, we are also to an extent we are dependent on the Middle Eastern countries, the Gulf countries for oil. So to bypass them, to overcome that dependence on the Gulf countries, we can depend on Central Asia also. Partly, we can actually ask Central Asia that we can actually partly give our oil so that we will reduce the import from the Gulf region. So for energy aspects, to reduce the dependence on the Gulf countries also, Central Asian region and the INSTC corridor is actually extremely important. For example, when the Russian war is actually happening, India started buying more coal from Russia. So Russia is actually a very large producer of all the energy resources, oil, natural gas, coal, everything like that. And when the war started, what happened was that there were many countries who were hesitant to buy all the coal and other things from Russia because we are giving money to Russia, right? So why we have to give money to Russia? Because Russia is doing a war on Ukraine. So why we don't want to support Russia? So we will never buy the coal and other resources from Russia. So a lot of people decided like that. A lot of countries decided like that. But ultimately, India actually, the coal imports from Australia, in the meanwhile, the Ukraine war was happening, currently happening. The imports of coal from Australia actually decreased, but the imports of coal from Russia actually increased. So we are in a phase that we are actually buying more energy from Russia. So what is the best route? This INSTC serves as one of the fastest routes for the coal exports. That is one very important thing. And last but not least, we have to also mention about one important point, that is
IAS,
Chabahar.
IPS or IFS.
What is Chabahar? It is a port. It is a port in Iran, and that particular port is actually constructed with the help of Indian machines and machineries. So this is a port in the Iran, the provinces Pakistan, Baluchistan. that particular province is very
ClearIAS
close to
courses
Pakistan,
to get
and that
selected
particular
into
port, the Chabahar
IAS,
port, is being
IPS or
constructed with the help
IFS.
of India only. So we will be managing
Visit
one of its terminals also. So
clearias.com.
that is very important thing.
Enroll in
That it is through this
ClearIAS
port, near
courses
through
to
this
get
port, of course,
selected
INSTC
into
will be passing through.
IAS,
And what is the
IPS
relevance
or
of this particular
IFS.
port? There is another port called Gwadar.
Visit
There is another
ClearIAS.com.
port called Gwadar. It is
Enroll
actually
in
just very
ClearIAS
near,
courses
but it is
to get
actually in
selected
Pakistan.
into
So just near Pakistan,
IAS,
in Iran, we are
IPS
constructing
or
another port
IFS.
to counter the Gwadar port of Pakistan. And this Gwadar port is being constructed with the help of China. So we want to counter that also. So that is why we have to mention the different challenges or concerns too. So what are the different concerns and what are the different challenges? We'll start from where we stopped from the last slide. We mentioned about the Gwadar port, right? That is why we are constructing we helped to construct the Chabahar port in Iran. So what is this Gwadar port? That is one of the major concerns. So one of the major concerns is the construction of Belt and Road Initiative. Belt and Road Initiative. Who is actually doing this thing? This is the China. This is a Chinese project. And what is the project of Belt and Road Initiative? They are planning to expand their influence all around the globe through a connection of different sea routes, rail routes, and all the things. So extensively, immense amount of funding is actually being given by the government of China, and they are planning different land routes, rail routes, and they're constructing roads elsewhere. They're constructing ports in China, Pakistan. They're constructing some major infrastructure like buildings, hospitals, bridges in Africa. So they want to they want to increase their influence in the entire globe, and they want to be the global leader of the 21st century at least by the second half of 21st century, that is somewhere around 30 years from now onwards, they plan to be the global leader after dethroning the US. So after the and during and after the Second World War, effectively it was United States of America was the global leader. They were the most influential one. If they want to kill or attack somebody anywhere in the world, they could do that. So that was evident from the assassination of the killing of the Osama bin Laden also. So they have the major technologies. They had the major technologies. They had the power. They had the money. Now China wants to bypass them, and China wants to be the global leader. So they are planning all these different kinds of projects. And by the second half of the 21st, currently going 21st century, they definitely plan to be in that top position. That is why they are doing all these things. And this BRI, they have a dedicated fund also. A lot of funds are coming, trillions of dollars are coming out. So they actually, when they are actually putting forward this BRI, there is what is the implication? What is the concern? We are going ahead with this INSTC and all these things, right? But when China is actually implementing project like this, they're giving so much of fund and all, which INSTC is not having. So when the Chinese money is coming, definitely some of the countries will favor this thing instead of the INSTC. So that is very important point because of the immense funding and pushing of this Belt and Road Initiative, the Silk Road project and all. There are a lot of countries which are going under the influence of China, and they don't want to continue. They may find it less attractive. This INSTC may be found less attractive. So it may defeat the entire process also. So that is very important thing, first thing. And the second thing we have to definitely, the fund is actually very less. There is no dedicated fund mechanism, just like BRI for INSTC. No dedicated fund is there. And no funds are actually coming from the World Bank, from the Asian Development Bank, etc. also. And there are different other security concerns too. There are different security concerns too, because a lot of these parts are actually going through extremely vulnerable areas, and especially to the Central Asian region and other regions, the still terrorist organizations like the remnants of the organizations like Islamic State is still working. So that is a very important thing. The security has to be cannot be compromised. That is one important thing. The next thing is actually the US sanctions. So which countries actually under the sanction radar mainly? It is definitely Iran and Russia also. So whoever trading with whichever country trading with Iran, Russia, or maybe North Korea, they're actually putting us they're threatening with sanctions. So that is why India was also threatened to be put under sanction. Why? Because we were actually cooperating with Russia, we were cooperating with Iran also. But currently, India's influence is very high. It is very large. It was not definitely developed in the last 5 or 10 or 15 years, something like that. India has been one of the major international players, definitely. We definitely have a major influence. Why? Because it is because of the location. It is because of our strategic location. One point. Second thing, it is because of we are the ones who are living next to China, right? So if the United States of America or the Western countries want to stop or check the China spread, it is ultimately Indians only, the India location of India only, which is more favorable to check China's growth. If China is actually coming more into the Indian Ocean region, to the Bay of Bengal, to the Arabian Sea region and all, they're coming, they're sending submarines, they're sending large naval fleets and all. America and all the Western powers like India, the UK, the French and all, they cannot always come here and look what is China is doing. So what they want India to be more powerful. They want to utilize the influence of India because of the strategic location. So unlike the political narrative and all, when you think about the international relations perspective, India has been a major player in this regard, has been a continuously a major global power in this aspect. And one of the last thing is that there is no uniformity in the thing. There is multi-modal system is there, but in certain places the train and the different routes will be in coming going in one particular pattern, and when you go to another country, it will be going in some other pattern. So there is a lack of uniformity. That is one another issue or concern which is spread in the we have to be discussed in the thing. And last but not the least, we have to also mention about the different tariffs. Tariff, I am loosely calling it tax. So there are different kinds of taxes, right? When you pass through one country, you have to put some tax, give some tax. But this tax is not at all uniform. Some countries are levying higher taxes, some countries does not. So there needs to be one proper uniformity in the particular project. Then only we can counter what it is called the BRI. That is the conclusion here. We have to understand that this is a very large project, but we have to be very uniform. We have to standardize our model. We have to cooperate extensively with each other. Then only we can counter this narrative of BRI.